Welcome back to the Blocks Retro Repair YouTube channel. Today we're working on this 1955 Studebaker again, specifically on these front two fenders. As you can see, they're not on here because we've been cutting out a lot of rust, replacing a lot of bad metal, but now we need to actually paint them. We're going to be getting them all stripped down, and we're going to be fully primering them with epoxy primer, and then we're going to go ahead and paint them, paint the insides of them white to match our firewall. We're going to leave the outsides primer. That's so we can do the body work on them, smooth them out whenever we go to actually do the rest of the outside of the car. But I need to get the insides painted white and clear coated and all that fun stuff so I can get them mounted up, get all the wiring redone, and be able to drive this thing again. Finished getting the entire exterior of this thing stripped, same with the other one. The interior I can't really strip, one, because I'm out of the roller for that, and two, because it's weirdly shaped, I wouldn't be able to properly fully do it. I did some of the more major deep rust areas, but I think what we're going to do is just clean this off. The outside, I needed to get a smooth coat on the primer. The inside here, it's not as important. It's weirdly shaped. You're not really going to notice. So I'm not too concerned about the inside here being perfectly smooth. So what I'm going to do now is we need to get all of the stuff off of this. So I'm going to take a wire wheel at least to it to get all of the loose stuff off, get it down to just bare solid on stuff. Maybe we'll do a little bit of hand sanding to get it down to a nice rough coat to actually paint on. But that's what I need to do to this one. The other one, fortunately, there's actually a little bit of rust right here I need to take care of. Once I do that, we'll do the same thing to it and get these things strung up somewhere here on the ceiling to paint them from, because I think that's going to be the easiest way to do it. Hang them up, maybe a hook in the headlight lens and in that hole there, something like that. I'm taking the wire wheel, clean all the loose stuff out of the inside of this fender and the inside of this fender. Also did some cleaning up of this stuff here to get them. That is unfortunately going to have to wait. I'm going to have to get that sandblasted before I can work on that, because that needs a lot of work done. It has a bunch of dents, actually has some body fill on it and all that fun stuff. So that's going to take some work. But let's go work on this right here. As you can see, we have a rust spot here that's blistered out. So we're going to just take the plasma cutter and cut that out, and we'll weld in a new piece of metal. Should be fairly simple, but it's this car. Nothing's that simple. There we go. I used the plasma cutter to cut through the top layer of metal there, and then I picked out all the loose rust and got all that cleaned up. We're going to slap a quick coat of paint on that area, and then we're going to weld in a new panel over that. That's why I love the plasma cutter. I was able to cut through just the top layer that was bubbled out, and not through all the many other layers that are all folded together right there. So we'll be able to get a new piece of metal on top of that, weld that in, grind that smooth, and that'll be good. There we go. We got that rust taken care of. So now we just need to do a little bit more prep work to these, and then I think, hoping I can get the primer sprayed on today. Got a few things strung up. Now I gotta go get some, why am I blanking on it? Plastic sheets. We'll go with that. Masking plastics. I've inhaled too much dust, I guess. But I need some stuff to just cover absolutely everything here in the garage and make this into a ghost town, basically, of plastic, so that none of the extra paint falls on anything. Then we need to tape off the stuff I don't want to paint, like the insides there. I'm not going to care too much, actually. I probably won't tape off too much of the inside. But right here where I do have to spray, I'll tape off this stuff. But I guess I got to start prepping this stuff with actual acetone and all that fun stuff to get all the chemicals and rest the dust off of these parts. The important stuff won't get covered in paint now. Now hopefully the stuff that actually needs covered in paint will get covered in paint. Wiped it all down with acetone. I'm going to go get the air thingamajig to make it so I don't breathe in too much paint fumes. And we're just going to mix up some epoxy primer and throw it on this stuff. I recently actually somewhat learned that you can actually reuse your desiccant by just baking it, and it turns back to blue. I actually could use a little bit more baking, but it's a whole lot less pink than it was. I didn't know it was reusable, but I saw somebody else do it. I looked it up. Apparently, you just bake it, dries back out, and you can reuse it again. The epoxy has been thrown on things. Now, I still have a bit mixed up in the pot, so I'm going to clean up this fuel tank, and we're also going to throw a coat on that. Hopefully, I have enough to do that. I have a little bit left in the pot. We'll just clean this up. We'll see how much epoxy primer I can get on this gas tank. Okay, I misjudged how much I needed by a lot. I got a quarter of the gas tank done, maybe. Not even, so, well, I'm going to wait on finishing this. I'm not going to mix up more yet, because it's probably going to be somewhere on one of these other pieces where I missed some. So I'm just going to wait, and whenever I mix up some to fix whatever I missed.
we'll finish the gas tank.
But as you can see, this is looking so much better. Now, the reason I decided to do the outside and the inside is because, well, simply I don't like doing a hard tape line, especially for primer. I'd probably end up with a spot I missed or something that didn't get the proper epoxy primer on the bare metal. So I figured it'd be easier to just do the outside and the inside of the fender at the same time. And then we can do our hard tape line for the color, since the inside's getting painted white and the outside will get red. But we're going to go ahead and paint the engine bay white a while, so we'll do our hard tape line on one of these body lines, paint this inside white, and we're going to leave the outside just the bare primer, so whenever we go to do the body work on the rest of the car, we can go ahead and block sand this and get it perfectly smooth and looking absolutely perfect. The engine bay doesn't matter near as much. It's going to get covered in oil anyway, let's be real. But just having this stuff, the base primer, just looks so much better. Now I'm going to get out of here because I took my mask off now that I've done spraying, but I am still smelling a lot of fumes. Been a day, so the paint should be cured, so now it's time to tape off our hard tape line. Again, I don't like doing hard tape lines, but it is going to be under the hood, so it doesn't really matter. And then we're going to paint our inner fenders white. We're going to put our hood cross member white and the battery compartment and the hood latch all painted white. So I'm going to get some tape up and mock up where we're going to have our tape line. I'm thinking I can go a little high on the white because I can always sand it down and paint the red a little lower. So I'm thinking we're probably going to go roughly to this curve with the white. I think that'll be pretty good, because when we paint the red, we have to make sure the red's deep enough that you don't see the white with the hood closed. So I think if we follow this line here with the white, we should be good. I actually decided to change it up. I'm going to tape it off up to this hood line here, where the hood is actually the hood line. The reason I'm doing that is because it's easier for me to remove the paint than add more paint once I'm done.
I got everything masked up, so now it's time to pour some paint in the gun and see what happens. It was a little bit cold in here this morning, but I used the heater to heat it up, so I think we should be good. We got the air system running. I'm just using this cheap duplicolor paint. It's what I used on this. It's not what I'm going to use on the whole car. This stuff is not great. It's really, really thin, so it takes a lot of this stuff to do pretty much anything. First coat of white on, it really doesn't change the color all that much. The primer is nearly white. It's like a very light gray, but we're going to let that dry for about 10 minutes, let it flash off, then we'll slap another coat on. I unfortunately think I'm only going to get 2 coats of white because I'm very low on the white, so I'm going to do the fenders first because they're the most important. These pieces I can take off in the future and repaint if necessary. These fenders I just need to get done so I can get this car drivable again. Second coat of color is on. We're going to let that flash off for about 15 minutes, then we're going to go back with some clear coat. I'm not worried about wet sanding it because, well, that metal ain't smooth, so there's not really a point to wet sanding. It's very rough. You can just see the unevenness in that metal from the factory. So I'm not concerned about getting a mirror finish with this clear coat. It's just a protective clear coat. It's going to be glossy, but it's not going to be no mirror finish, and we're not going for a mirror finish. It's the engine bay. Now we're going all out for the clear coat. I've got a new purple gun. The other one was leaking out of pretty much everywhere imaginable. This one, it's not leaking anywhere. It's amazing. But I got my clear coat mixed up. Let's pour this in the cup and start spraying. That is a lot more clear coat than I was aiming for. This is going to be some very thick clear coating we're putting on, because I'm not going to let that go to waste, but my goodness. I meant to mix up like maybe 2/3 of that. First coat of clear coat is on. They're looking good enough. I think we'll actually be able to use all of the clear coat without going an unreasonable amount of coats. We used about half of it doing the first coat, so I think we'll be good. So we didn't mix too much, but as you can see, it is looking pretty damn nice. The touchscreen on this phone somehow got clear coated, so that's nice. Well, I ended up using up all the clear coat. It's very orange peely. Don't look at that. We don't care about that, right? It's the engine bay. Nobody's going to question it. But it ended up taking 3 coats to get rid of all the clear coat. That's not an unreasonable amount, so it should be just fine. So I'm going to let all this cure for probably a very long time. Unfortunately, I was really hoping to get to rewiring this and getting these installed today. That's not happening. It took a little bit longer to get all this stuff painted than I was hoping. But from about 20 miles away, this is going to look absolutely beautiful. When we actually go to paint the car, we're going to do some things very different, obviously. We're going to actually sand between coats and all that fun stuff. That's what you should definitely do. We're going to block sand it and all that. But again, this metal is like, kind of hard to show on camera, but not flat from the factory at all. It is extremely wavy on the inside here, so I didn't care that much. Sue me.
It has been quite a while now, so it's not obviously 100% cured. I think it's like 24 hours or 48 hours for 100% curing. I don't know. I'm not a painter. But as you can see, it's dry enough to be handled. This is looking absolutely awesome. Our hood latch super smooth. We got our fancy battery compartment. Hopefully no battery acid spills on that and ruins all the paint, but it's looking beautiful. As you can see, a little bit of rust down in there, but not too bad. That's looking awesome. These things here were just primered. As you can see, they have some nice texture to them due to that epoxy primer, but we'll get these blocks sanded down, get those painted up real nice with the rest of the car. And of course, the inner fenders are looking awesome now. Let's get them untaped, and I probably should have done that while they were still wet, but I didn't think about it. So let's really hope none of the paint stuck to the tape and it peels off with the tape. Ultimately, though, if any of it does, it doesn't really matter, because as I previously stated, when I go to paint the car red, we'll probably be taking the red paint down to here, so this section isn't all that important. That was some garbage painter's tape. It left a residue in my primer. What the hell? Okay, that's doesn't matter, but kind of annoying. I just love the feel of the painted metal. It just feels incredible. We got our fancy bullet hole here. I genuinely do think that is a bullet hole because it is not threaded. It's not like it was a self-tapper or anything. And the metal's, like, out the other side. It's not a drilled hole like the rest of these. That, I'm pretty sure, is a bullet hole. Man, this engine bay is going to look so good. This thing here across the front. I just can't wait to get these things on. But unfortunately, I have to because I don't want to ruin the paint that I just did. So I'm going to let these hang for probably a day just to make sure they're fully cured, and then we'll get these things mounted up and it's gonna look awesome. We got all of our fender stuff painted on the cheap. I say cheap, but that epoxy primer was wildly expensive. So was the Duplicolor paint actually, and so was the clear coat, but I've had that clear coat for like 4 years. I bought that for a project that didn't end up happening because the engine blew in that car, and then I rebuilt the engine and never ended up painting it anyway. But I guess the discount was I painted it all with a, like, Harbor Freight purple gun that was bought at a discount store for like $6.
I'm working on getting the bolts extracted from this radiator support. Of course, 5 of the 6 bolts broke off. That's the only one that didn't. I've gone ahead and drilled straight through every single bolt. Now I'm going to use a bolt extractor and see if we can't pull these out. I'm going to actually, since I drilled the whole way through, try to pull them out this way because there's a lot less of the bolt to actually go. We'll see. If I can't extract them with a bolt extractor, I think probably I'll get a couple of them, but highly doubt I'll get all of them. In that case, we'll either figure out something else, continue drilling them to where I have to helicoil them, or have to riv nut them depending on what actually happens here. So, I guess without further ado, I gotta grab my bolt extractors and try to get these stupid things out.
That sucks. Okay, so next plan. Drill them out further.
Drilled these out to be a little bit larger, but I still cannot get the last little bit out of the threads. They are fully rusted in there. So, I have 2 options. Well, there's 3 options. I think there's enough meat to get a helicoil on them, but I don't know if there is, so we're going to drill them out. If we don't have enough meat to get a helicoil, we'll try to riv nut them. If we can't do that, we'll cut them all off and we'll put in some just weld-on nuts, I guess. Gone ahead and drilled out and tapped the 5 bolts that need put helicoils in. Now, you may be wondering why I not just leave it to the larger size bolt. While I think the things that bolt to this have large enough holes, I could probably leave a larger size bolt. I just don't like the fact that one of them that didn't break off is going to be a smaller size bolt, so that would be really annoying. And honestly, we've done 90% of the work to install a helicoil. Why not just install the helicoil? Do it right, we have the tools, it's easy enough. Why would I not? If for some reason you don't know what a helicoil is, it's these. They're literally just little coils that you tap in to your larger size and you get a smaller thread pattern on the inside. It's pretty simple. And they're actually fairly easy to remove if the threads ever get damaged. You can always just grab it, and if you twist it the wrong direction, they just kind of shrink in on themselves, and you can thread them right out. They're not that difficult to remove if you ever damage the threads or something. They're pretty cool. Simply screw it in to the depth that you want. We're going to go for, obviously, being fully in. A little bit further than that. A little bit further than that. A little bit further than that. Right about there. Looks good. And now we have a little punch that you simply take this and you break off that little peg that's inside there that you use to thread it in. super simple. And now we have a perfect thread pattern and smaller size hole. Now in this case, our helicoils are actually a bit too long, so I twisted it all the way back down through because it was sticking out by about 2 threads. So we're just gonna cut off about 2 threads here from the top and we should be good. And just like that, we have 5 new beautiful looking threads on this thing. Now I need to remove all the rust off of this, and then we're gonna paint it. Probably should have done that before I put these in, but, well,
now we start putting the fenders back on. As you can see, I got this one on. It's only held on with 2 screws right now. They're in the back, so got to get all the alignments all aligned before I actually screw it in tight. But it's balanced there, sitting on the frame in the front and holding there so it can't actually go anywhere. Let's get this second one on, and we'll actually be able to finally see what our actual engine bay is going to look like. So far, it is looking awesome. The lighting is making it look like that's a different color than that. I'm wearing gloves because some of the screws that I used to attach this, I put a second coat of paint on, and they're still tacky, and I didn't realize that until I started this. And, well, I'm too far in now. I'm not stopping. But, as you can see, the engine bay does look slightly different, the firewall in this. They're the exact same paint out of the exact same can of paint, so that cannot be. It's just the stupid shadow. If you see up here, it's a lot brighter than back there. It's just, I don't have the best lighting in here. I mean, that bulb is dead. So yeah, it'll look even, I'm sure, probably. There we go. We have everything loosely mocked together. Loosely, I literally mean loosely. But this is looking so good. And then there'd be our radiator here, obviously, our radiator hoses and all that. This is looking incredible. Just look at that. That looks so sick. And again, we'll have all our other stuff mounted in here. We have to have our alternator, or generator actually, mounted over there. We'll have our carburetor on there, our air filter, our battery, all the wiring has to go back in here, but this is looking so freaking good. Just look at that. That looks awesome. It is genuinely incredible what a little bit of paint can do to an engine bay. I do mean a little bit of paint by a bunch of sanding, a bunch of epoxy primer to make it so it's sealed and will hopefully not rust for another 70 years. And then, you know, our paint and then clear coat. But I'll insert a clip here of what this looked like before, assuming I can find one. But this is what it looked like before. And this is such a major improvement. Just look at that. Also, the paint on the engine also quite helps, but it just looks so good. It is actually looking like a car again. This looks fantastic. I cannot wait to get the chrome on the front, which I don't really know if I want to mount yet because it needs actually cleaned up. We need to figure out if we're powder coating it chrome, or I don't really want to spend the thousands of dollars to get it professionally re-chromed. The car isn't worth thousands of dollars. But it is looking like a car again. Absolutely fantastic. We'll have to get our air vents mounted in. Unfortunately, what I need to do is I need to finish rebuilding our tunnels that connect the outside hole to the inner hole. They were pretty much completely rusted away. And the other side actually has a blower motor. We're going to have to see if we can get that repaired or if we're screwed. But, yeah. As you can see, though, it just looks so incredibly good. We got our hole for our antenna and everything. It just looks fantastic. Well, unfortunately, this is where we're going to have to leave today's video. It's out here under the canopy again because, yeah. Chaos ensued. Basically, somebody decided it'd be nice to insulate this garage so during the colder months it can be heated and you want to actually work on said Studebakers, which inquired putting a bunch of insulation in. The problem is, somebody then decided, you know, this place should be cleaned up. It hasn't been cleaned, well, roughly the entire time I've been alive. So, that table's now over there. The sandblasting cabinet, drill press, and grinder that were over there is over here now. This way there's more room on the sides for the vehicle, so you have even more room around the vehicle, which will be nice. And all of that is now everywhere and is all over the place in piles of get rid of and maybe get rid of. Unfortunately, this means that we're not going to be able to get to the wiring parts of this and getting this thing back to running in today's video, but I guess in the next video, hopefully, we'll get to the wiring and rewire this thing and get it drivable. However, it also means this isn't fully mounted. All the hardware did get sandblasted and repainted, so we're good there. Baked it in the oven to force dry it, because I assumed I'd actually get to put this on this weekend. But that happened, and not only did that happen, those happened. These 2 Studebakers needed moved, so they got moved down here by this garage to get them out of the way of where they were. And now they're in the way down here. This one right here will be the next Studebaker we work on. This is a 1962 Hawk. This one was actually my grandfather's, so that'll definitely be something to get running. And there's a bunny running behind me. Okay. But as you can see, it's not in terrible condition physically. Not in as good as the Commander was, but the inside of this one, the floor, is basically completely rusted out, which is the problem. But unlike this one, the body is in wildly bad condition, but the engine runs in this one. This is another Hawk. This one, the engine sat without spark plugs in it for probably a few decades, so the engine is, well, at least in need of a rebuild. But if you like what you saw and you want to see more of this Studebaker and all the other Studebakers and arcade stuff, because that's what I'm actually mostly doing here, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.